Well, in true Nintendo fashion, there are definitely periods of time that they treat Nintendo Switch Online like an afterthought, and we don't see any kind of frequency of updates regularly for the service. Then there are seasons where, surprise, surprise, Nintendo remembers that they are charging for a subscription service, and they actually give us more frequent updates, because to many people's surprise, myself included, we have already had a N64 game go live in the form of Mario Party 3, which you could argue we waited far too long to get that game playable to begin with, but we are now getting another surprise round of updates for the base tier of the service this time, and I love to see when at least the expansion pack tier subscribers are taken care of in addition to the base tier subscribers, because as mentioned, this is an ongoing subscription service, so you are paying for it either monthly or annually. And you can first see the following post over on X from Nintendo of America, which reads, 3 classic titles are now live for Nintendo Switch Online members. For the NES, we have the mysterious Murasame Castle and Devil World, and for the Game Boy, we have Castlevania Legends. Now, Castlevania is going to be the big game that I am personally most interested in, but a quick note from Oatmeal Dome, as you can see his post. Just a quick note on these games, Devil World is a Miyamoto design game that was never released in the US because of Nintendo of America's no religious content policy at the time, and Murasame Castle was also never released in the US until 2014 via the 3DS Virtual Console. So in today's video, I want to boot up these games together, share my initial early gameplay impressions, and talk about whether or not these may be worth your time when it comes to new Nintendo Switch Online content to go through. What's up, nation? Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification if you haven't already. And as mentioned, we're hopping into the new additions to Nintendo Switch Online, the base tier update this time, as opposed to what we did last time with checking out Mario Party 3. But we actually have, interestingly, Castlevania Legends added into this. And this was the big one that I was most excited to see, because it's one of those rare licensed games that you would assume maybe Nintendo had to essentially spend a little bit of money, if you will, to get this game on the service. Not saying they don't have to spend money on the other games, but there's no doubt that with Konami involved in the release of Castlevania and all of its related titles over the years, that Nintendo would have to do something in terms of getting kind of a payment. Now, I'm actually not familiar with Castlevania Legends. I never played this originally on the Game Boy, but I will say that as somebody who fell in love with the Castlevania series later on in life, I didn't play it as a child so much, but actually kind of through my late teenage years, 18, 19, with a good buddy of mine, still best friends to this day, booted up all of the classic Castlevania games from the NES, kind of got exposed to it through Angry Video Game Nerd, believe it or not, and so had a lot of fun going through those games and actually completing them. And yeah, they're hardcore in difficulty, and really just completely became enthralled with the series, the music, the lore, everything. Not to mention, I found myself becoming a Metroid fan over the years, and Metroidvania, well, that's a genre of its own for that specific reason. So just the faint background music here that's playing, obviously Game Boy technology, but still sounds great just because Castlevania has such a great soundtrack to it. So again, not familiar with like the fact of whether or not this is its own game entirely, or if it's kind of a Game Boy version of an existing Castlevania. Definitely let me know if you're familiar with this game in the comments down below, kind of the story behind it. It looks like we have one of those like Medusa type creatures there. If you can barely make out that it's Medusa if it's supposed to be. You know, so anyway, I do think like this definitely isn't like a Castlevania 1 remake. I can definitely say that for sure. So it probably is most likely its own game. You had type of, you know, back in the Game Boy era when Nintendo's supporting handheld and home console, you had kind of just simplified versions of, you know, less graphically impressive NES style games, I guess you could say. And obviously we saw them continue with that all the way through the SNES generation, and really all the way until the Switch. They were consistently pumping out brand new games on handheld and on home console. So obviously we see them handle that very different now in the Switch era, and that actually causes some debate. I think that, you know, while there are the major games that you love to see, you hope that Nintendo isn't technically doing less in terms of total game releases just because of the hybrid form factor, and I don't really think they do. We obviously get games like Link's Awakening, you know, that's a classic handheld Game Boy game, also just remade. You know, stuff like that probably wouldn't have released on the Switch if Nintendo was still doing some kind of split between a 3DS and a you know, Nintendo Wii U or whatever, if they still had two consoles separated going on like that, I don't think we would see those type of games released on the Switch. But anyway, this one, I'm gonna say just initial early impressions. It plays exactly like Castlevania and how you expect it. Just a little bit on the simple side, very reminiscent of the original Castlevania on NES, 1, 2, and 3. I choose a very different play style, but in terms of what it is, that's what it is. So if you're a fan of Castlevania, I'm gonna say go ahead and say that this is just worth booting up and checking out of everything on this list. Like I said, I'm most excited about this one, but the other two releases are actually games that we had not previously seen released in North America, as mentioned earlier in the video, so we will at least very briefly hop into those and talk about them. So we will next hop into the mysterious world of Murasami's Castle, and you can kind of start to see a little bit of a trend here with these top titles all on the NES, where you see that we're getting a lot of games that were never released, you know, worldwide. A lot of Japan only releases from Nintendo, and you know, that's kind of interesting to see here, because I do think that we'll just put anything just to kind of get through here. I do think that you know, that's a different option that they can go in addition to licensed games, is they can give us games that were never localized. Now, does that mean you might not be able to read the screen text whenever you're starting up the initial game selection? Yes, but it means that there's a game that we couldn't play previously. And when I saw this game in the trailer, I have zero clue how it plays or what we're doing here, and it looks like I can just press B and probably using an item there, but go invisible for a second. But it kind of almost gave me well, now I'm thinking like top-down Ninja Gaiden, but kind of Legend of Zelda vibes as well. At least, you know, anything that's kind of an adventure action game like this back in the NES tended to look somewhat similar to each other, and just the exploration, also seeing a portion taking place in a dungeon. It actually seemed like this game has some pretty good upside and potential. And I'll just say right out of the gate, I mean, obviously we're talking about NES games here. You're not going to write home about the crazy in-depth gameplay mechanics and graphical immersion or anything like that, right? If you don't have nostalgia for these titles, they may not be super impressive for you. But if you're somebody who really appreciates classic games from back in the day and you love the way that they play, I tend to enjoy retro games just as much, if not more some days, depending on the mood of style of game I want, than modern day releases. Now, of course, I say that as somebody who's like super thoroughly enjoying Mario Wonder right now, but I think part of the reason I'm enjoying that game so much also has to do with the fact that I love this older 2D style, and this more just classic return to form. A lot of, you know, difficulty in certain areas. Obviously, I'm dying here on screen. Like, I enjoy that kind of gameplay progression, and initial impressions on this one are very positive, honestly. I could see myself definitely spending more time in this and kind of getting accustomed to, I'm sure, various different upgrades and abilities and things like that, new items and weapons you'll probably find, in addition to potential boss fights. I mean, I don't know anything about this game since, as mentioned, it was never released here in North America, so this is all new to me, and talk about boss fights, this might not be one. That was just a big enemy that popped up on screen. Soundtrack's nothing great, and obviously it ranks up in the difficulty department because we're dying repeatedly here. So I would say definitely boot this one up too if you're a fan of that like top-down action adventure style. Really, you know, maybe moving a little bit faster than what Legend of Zelda does, but very similar in terms of just your overall, you know, how you interface with the world and the character and things like that, and also taking out all the enemies on screen. Definitely faster paced though. Yeah, as you can see, I'm pretty sure that I need to probably have some different power-ups and items and utilize things better, and that's a game over. So we'll hop into Devil very briefly before we wrap this entire video up. So right out of the gate, not sure exactly what to expect in terms of gameplay here. I do know that Mr. Miyamoto himself was involved in this game. And I do know that the character Devil I recognize, or I guess it's called Devil World, which this would not have sold in North America very well, especially back in the 80s or whenever this was released. But I will tell you that, you know, that being a Miyamoto involved game that never got released here is kind of crazy to think about. And then also, obviously, I'm sure you guys recognize the character if you're Smash Bros fans. That Devil that's moving the screen right now is absolutely the one that does it as an item within Smash Bros. And I don't exactly know if I'm supposed to be throwing crosses at these guys. Like, I don't entirely get the gameplay loop here, so let me see if what happens. Okay, I can breathe fire, so we got that going for us, and I don't know if I'm supposed to be taking these somewhere. The screen is moving the entire time, so maybe I'm supposed to bring all the crosses to this big one. It's not clear to me what I'm supposed to be doing here, but I guess probably with more time and trial and error we can maybe figure it out. So I don't know what this does either, but there's this giant like death box in the middle here. Almost maybe I'm getting it looks like scores when I pick up these, but you know, almost Pac-Man style, whatever you want to call those, just dots on screen. Yeah, you know, I'm gonna say, you know, there's some creative things going on here, but not anything that's like really, you know, drawing me into the gameplay. Definitely would say that the other two are kind of ranking higher for me personally in terms of initial impressions. I mean, this feels like you're mixing Pac-Man with like a weird, you know, on-screen movement mechanic, and you're kind of, you know, paying attention to obviously the devil character up there and what he's doing and as far as where the screen's gonna move. And then okay, so it appears to me that I only have the ability to fire out those blasts when I have a cross in hand. So that's kind of what we're dealing with here. Then the question becomes though, is my goal just to collect all of these dots kind of Pac-Man style? Because it very well may be that. And then we have ice cream cones, or is it just to score a high enough score, you know? And also I wonder if I can die if I don't get out of the way. We'll just test this out. Yes, I absolutely can. So you are worried about where the screen is moving and things like that in order not to die. And I wonder how many levels this game has. Like I said, these are all new additions, or 2 out of the 3 rather are new additions in North America. So cool to see Nintendo Switch Online kind of back in the talking points again here recently on the channel. I really hate whenever Nintendo goes months and months without acknowledging the service, or even just, you know, acting like they need to stick to any kind of consistency in an update schedule. And as mentioned, I'll give them credit where credit's due, even though I have a lot of gripes with the service. And you could say these aren't the heavy hitter games that everybody wants to see. You know, like hopefully we'll see some Mega Man one day, some Mickey Mouse, some Goof Troop, a bunch of stuff from the NES, SNES that we still need to have. It's not stuff like that, but I will say that it is at least credit where credit's due. They didn't forget about both tiers of the service in a single month in October, which is obviously good to see, and hopefully they stick to giving at least things like one new game or multiple new games for the base tier and multiple new games for whether it be N64 or GBA for the expansion pack tier. But I really want to hear from you guys in the comments down below whether or not you're going to boot up either one of these games, or any of the 3 rather. Do you have any level of nostalgia for any of them, or you like me and, you know, 2 out of the 3 you're not familiar with at all? And really, as I mentioned, I didn't even play Castlevania Legends. So are these all new to you as well? And how excited for you are them, or are you for them rather? And do you think Nintendo will stick to any kind of more of a frequency around 1 per month on each tier instead of just having months where they skip certain tiers entirely? And what do you hope we see next in terms of new game releases? So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch yesterday's video next if you haven't already, which is on screen right now. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.